Greetings and welcome to an array of vintage PCs. These are the machines I've collected over the last 2 years as I try and explore the world of vintage PCs. Having been a Mac user for 20 years, these are something of a mystery to me, and I have to say, coming to them somewhat fresh, without prior knowledge, they're not entirely obvious how they work and how they operate. And for that reason, I think it would be quite interesting in a future video to look at how to install an operating system. And to that purpose, I have Windows 95 on floppy disk. I also have it on CD if that doesn't work. I also have an original Restore CD for my Pentium 75 here. If I run you through what I have a 486 rehoused in a desktop format so the CRT can sit on top of it. The original case that came in is enormous, and to be honest, it may go back in here because I can see that being quite useful, particularly for archiving floppy disks and doing various other tasks where you need to copy from one drive to another. But for the moment, it sits with a CRT inside an Opus case. Now, Opus was a British company, I believe, that was making accessories for the BBC Micro. And I was very lucky to find a keyboard to go with it. And keep the, can you see the logo there? The logo has brushed off the aluminium panel here. But you can still see an Open University sticker. I do like that. That is going to remain. Hope that appears on screen just in the corner there. I've taken out a CD drive and put a floppy drive in there. We have a 3.5-inch floppy drive sitting vertically. And so this is my 486 machine. This is what everybody wants as a vintage gaming PC. And so if I go to the A drive, wait for a moment, plug that in, retry. Are we there? Yes, we are. Directory. We have a program on there. And of course that program is the inevitable Planet X3. What else could it be? Now, can we switch the music off for a moment? We will exit to DOS. Have a nice DOS. C drive once again. Now, getting that up and running to that point where I can run DOS has proved to be quite difficult and tricky for me. Not being familiar with these Windows machines, I'll say something controversial, shall I? To me, it's surprisingly primitive. Having used Macintosh since the late 1990s, I'm surprised how simple and therefore how tricky these machines have been. And so, if I can find this, in order to install an operating system, the first thing you find is that the hard drives fail, particularly on an age of this machine. Although 300 megabytes, it was actually working. The one that failed, 1 gigabytes in here and 1 gigabytes in here. Around about 1995, where they stopped being so many megabytes and become a gigabyte, those are the very unreliable drives I've found. Don't know if that's other people's experience or not. So the operating system I have is running off this. That is a little compact flash adapter. Some computers require a little extra power on that pin at the top with a little small Molex. There's a name for that. It's not Molex, it's something else. Perk or Percu? Something. IDE connection, compact flash in there, and up to 1 gigabyte they seem to be fine. When you get to 2 gigabytes and beyond, they're a little less reliable, but they're very useful for installing all these operating systems. And in the back I can pull out the compact flash card, plug in another one, and run something else. As you can see, I've got a good selection of things to try, each of those being a different compact flash with something else going on. Go into this box. I have blank PC DOS, that's the original IBM. I have DR DOS, that's the digital research version. I've even managed to install Xenix onto a compact flash card, and it will work on these machines, and that's rather interesting. Proper genuine original version of Unix, not just relying on Linux, to see how that goes. So I'm quite looking forward to that. I want to read some of the books, get into it a little bit further. Moving along, this came to me free as it was going to be thrown away. Great shame. Setting it up, again, a bit tricky. It has a key, as does the original large case for this, and I found a key. I'm very fortunate to do that. Didn't have one. Thankfully, unlocked. Makes a big difference. Reset and turbo. Turbo doesn't appear to do anything on this. Just a legacy from the old AT class. Same on here. This also has a reset and a turbo. And a blank button. Don't know what that would be for. Turbo doesn't seem to do anything once you reach the Pentium. It becomes irrelevant. But this is an SCOM. So, being a Commodore enthusiast, that's quite interesting to me. I have seen this exact machine for sale on, I think it was Facebook Marketplace, and it was down in the southeast corner of England. I'm in the east of England. It was a little bit too far away. I couldn't go and collect it. Otherwise, I could have had two of these sitting side by side, exactly the same specification. One badged as an SCOM, the other badged as a Commodore. How interesting. But from that seller, I did buy the Restore CD. If we bring that up, SCOM and a number of bits of software pre-installed. And if I have a quick look up here, there were some other discs with it, some drivers, various other things. It had a Mac 64 graphics processor. I managed to damage the graphic card. I put another one in there. But the graphic card I put in here should be compatible with this. It's on the list of compatible graphic cards to run this. I'm fingers crossed, can I do that? Fingers crossed, really hopeful I can get BOS to run on my SCOM. My, should we call it a Commodore? Why not? There we are, just to prove that exists. There's the specifications. It's, as far as I can tell, this is quite fussy. The Macintosh is well known for only accepting so many graphic cards, so many upgrades, so many types of RAM, not the smorgasbord of things you get for a PC. This takes that to a whole other level. This is very hardware specific. It will run on Macintosh, and it will run on x86, this later version, version 4. That, the SCOM, is my wish for that to work. Which brings me to a point about these machines being primitive. This was the first machine I restored, the SCOM, with a Pentium 75. It's not particularly fast, but it is a Pentium. The interesting thing I found with this, possibly more than any of the other machines here, this seems to be quite capable of running just about any operating system I throw at it. I think the 486 might, if it's powerful enough, but this will run the IBM operating systems, it will run the digital research, it'll run the Xenix, it'll run Linux. It seems to want to run anything I throw at it. It's not limited in BIOS. I really, really like this machine. That's become my favourite, and I will plug it into here soon. This machine needs setup, so I think I'm going to do a little video explanation of what I think I've learnt about setting up a vintage PC as a complete novice. Ditto with the gateway, and for this I did manage to get some original gateway discs with Windows 98 SE, so that's going to go into that machine. Let's put that down there. That will be great because with Windows 98 I can plug in various things. I have the Neverhood, and I have Lego Mindstorms and a few other things that I want to run on that machine. Then this one at the end, Fujitsu Siemens Myrika is the model, never heard of that before. It has an Intel Celeron processor, and this is much the most powerful of all these machines. You're into the ATX class here, where you've got the little panel to cover up all of the input-output ports, the PS2 ports, the video ports. They're all built onto the motherboard. Whereas these computers, AT class machines, nothing's built onto the motherboard except the keyboard connector. That seems to be the difference. Didn't know that before? I do know it now. So this is going to be rather good. It does run OS2 Warp from IBM very well. It does run Windows NT very well, which means that is going to be a great machine for trying CAD. And to that effect, I've been buying up various versions of let's call it Retro CAD, shall we? This one that's just arrived today is Turbo CAD. Looking forward to trying that, assuming, fingers crossed again, that the floppy disks will read. Other versions of CAD I've picked up on CD. They should be fine. Likewise, some of these later versions of Linux Professional. I think this is the most recent version I picked up as a big box. Looking forward to trying these, because in the big box you get all the books. Have a look at this. You get everything, including someone else's extra CDs. You get the CD pack, you get leaflets about the software that was available at the time, and look, user guides, administration guides, all the things that should explain what Linux is really about. Because today you can download Linux, about 2 gigabytes, whichever version you get. You stick it onto a little thumb drive, plug it into the machine, and you can actually boot off the thumb drive, or you can install it and it just works like a graphical user interface, like Windows, like Macintosh, and you just click away and just work with the system, and that's fine. It doesn't really tell you what the system's really about, what the essence of it is. So this is going to be insightful, time consuming. What other adjectives can we apply? It's going to be very interesting. So there we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all in a row, different generations of machine. And going back from the 486, I do have, if I can find it, a 386 that I want to restore. It's not showing any signs of life. I may have to get another one. I also have a 286 in my compact, and I've got an AT86 in 2 formats as well. I have the IBM PC XT to restore, very poor condition, show you that later on. I've also got the Apricot PC, a machine I really rather like. It's small, it's compact, definitely a professional machine. It should have been a competitor to the IBM. Great thing, love it. The last one I've got is actually over here behind the camera. It's a PS2, which is the Model 55SX, and that makes it the one that would, well, one step on from the Model 30. Model 30 was a 286, this one's a 386. So just behind there, behind the camera, 386, 486, 586, Pentium, 686. That's wrong. Just behind the camera, I've got 386, 486, 586 as a Pentium, can we call it that? 686, it does actually say that in the BIOS on the screen when you boot this one up. Pentium 2 and a Celeron. I think that should keep me fairly busy. Bye for now.